horror, fantasy, and romance. We are reading your stories today on the Story and Critique Show. Do you have an excerpt of a book, script, or short story that you need feedback for? Or maybe you just want to hear it read out aloud? Well, down in the YouTube description, follow the submission link and we will get it queued up on today's show. Episode 29 of the Story and Critique Show. Over 160 stories read and counting. Welcome to the WriteNow community. I am Kauffman, and I'm on a mission to help the unpublished writers of the world with the lifestyle, process, and mindset that it takes to get that first book out there, to become an author. And we're starting right now. All right, and let me hop into the comments. Woo, excellent. I always love seeing everybody warming up in here. Miss Courtney, welcome. ML, good to see you. Marta, our Polish writer, wonderful, wonderful. And Miss Tiara. Speaking of Tiara, we're going to be starting with your story excerpt first. So we'll be starting with the Love Language, the Horror Romance by Miss Tiara Spells. And I'll be queuing that up in just a few minutes. So we'll be starting right at the gate with a little dark romance, a little horror. Who doesn't love a good horror story? Especially as we're getting into Halloween and our creepy time of the year. Welcome, welcome. Let's see. Marta, I want to show off. I have only last chapter of my book left to be translated to English. Congratulations, Marta. That is so exciting. Your story almost going to be published. You're getting so close. It's like when you get to the end and you can taste it. It's getting there, my friend. Doing good. Got my flash fiction first draft done, Eli. I'm super stoked. I know you said you're trying something very creative with it. Like, the more creative, the better. I am just looking forward to it. And I know Penelope is looking forward to it as well. We'll actually be doing a cool little short story reading of a short story in a little bit. We'll do it a little later on in the show that WTC wrote a story about me, as y'all know, for those of you who are here on the Monday stream. And he also ended up writing an alternative version that included Penelope. So we've got a little live reading that we'll have set up a little later in today's stream. I'm super excited. I actually don't know what to expect. I haven't checked it out yet. So we'll be seeing. Let's see, ML. I got power back after 18 hours. Oof, with no power. I'm so sorry. I've dealt with power outages before. Absolute power outages are the worst. Then you're relying on candles, and hopefully you have a good book to read and you can actually see the light. Hopefully the phone was charged beforehand. Hopefully there was a laptop available, or maybe it's just time to build up and get cozy next to a fire. But glad you're out of the thick of that. Weather and environmental troubles always suck. Ooh, and then you can finally pass it to good hands. I approve of that. I approve of this message, Marta. Honestly, still freaking out, stopping myself from doing my final 5,000 words. I know you are so close, Courtney. I'm like, I'll be your cheerleader over here. Go, Courtney. 5,000 words for the birthday. Do it for the birthday. For the watch. Yay. Hey, what's up, Mast? Welcome, my friend. And Mr. Sean Robin, who we will finally be reading the epic, and let me dare say the epic finale conclusion of Summer's Reign today. So that we have been diving through his script for so many streams now, and we finally get to see the thrilling conclusion of Summer's Reign. That one will be queued up in just a little bit. Excellent. Yes, we'll see. So we'll actually, for those of you who missed out, WTC, James over at WTC, we actually did our website review stream yesterday. If you haven't watched it, it was actually very beneficial. But James wrote a short story with me as the protagonist. It was a fun little horror story. And it was definitely a fun little horror story. I was like, I need to find a place to post it. Once the Discord's up, we'll have a place to post our stuff. But he wrote an alternative ending for Miss Penelope. And while I read my version and the ending for mine on the stream on Monday, we have not yet shared Penelope's. So we're actually going to be doing that today. It's the horror story. It's going to be fun. All right, so let's get into the stream. All right, and if you're watching on the replay, I got you covered. When this stream ends, time codes will be added to the parts of the stream. So that way you can hop to the part that brings you the most value. So if you got a live reading, if you got a critique, or if there was a story you're like, wow, that's really cool, I need to hear it again, you'll be able to hop straight to the part to save you time. Perfect. Now, as we get into the readings itself, how do you submit? We accept all types of story formats, whether it is a book or a script, whether it is a graphic novel or a screenplay, a short story or flash fiction, because all formats still need good storytelling at heart. All genres are welcome. The only genre I may not be able to touch upon would probably be anything that is erotica or pornographic. I think that might be the only one, but we'll see. We're getting further ahead. So once right now with cussing and mature content, not an issue. If we get to a point where we have sponsors or other brands, then that's when that type of content becomes more challenging, because then it makes it difficult to advertise. But for now, all genres are welcome. So if you want to submit, down in the YouTube description, there is a link. Submit now if you're wanting feedback on your story or script. Perfect. So that's the submission link. And then highlighting. So while I'm reading your story, if I highlight any part of it, it's not a good or a bad thing. We all understand, right? When we put our work out there, it can be nerve-wracking. But the highlighting is for my benefit, so that way I can keep in mind the notes that I want to call out. Absolutely. Hey, what's up, Rachel? Glad to have you here in the stream, my friend. Welcome, welcome. We actually have some really exciting stories queued up. We're going to be starting up with Miss Tiara's Love Language, a horror romance by Miss Tiara Spells. So we're going to be doing that. Let's see. And I have yours all queued up here on deck, Tiara. Perfect, perfect. Now, as we think about the critique itself, how do I critique? So when I'm looking at a book, a script, whatever, I break down the critique into the 5, let's see, I'm losing my mouse. So, okay, I break it down into the 5 elements of creative writing. Technically 6 with grammar, but grammar is not something I focus on during this version of where stories tend to be. Grammar tends to be a last problem, but I like to break it down into character development, world building, dialogue, plot, and structure. This makes it clear if there is a problem or if there's something great that works, that we can easily define what is the problem and then fix it accordingly. So if there's something that stands out to you, you're like, wow, that is fire. Or you're like, hey, that doesn't make sense. Or that's kind of like, it's just weird. Drop it in the comments. Drop your thoughts. I'm of the belief all feedback is great feedback as long as we deliver it in a way that is kind. Because anybody who submits their story wants to get their story to the best possible place. And we want to help you do that. So drop your feedback so that way we can help you on the road to getting that work published or optioned. All right, beautiful. And yep, joining the critique. And I think we are a go. All right, Tiara. So we're going to be starting off with love language. Beautiful. Am I ready? Let me make sure I got all the things here. Okay. All right, I think I'm ready. Okay, Tiara, I got you. This is going to be fun. This is going to be fun. Okay. You see, Tiara, you already got the vote of confidence, and we haven't even started yet. All right, perfect. Love language. A dark romance. He liked to frighten me, show me he loved me. It started with the pranks, the hiding behind the fridge door while I had it open, coming up behind me at the store while I think he's in a different aisle. But I really noticed it at a movie. At the drive-in, my legs dangling out of the truck window, being devoured by mosquitoes. He watched me watch, growing more and more terrified of the girl running from the killer on screen in front of me. He smiled. He looked at me with childlike wonder, completely innocent and completely in love. He took me to the creek one morning, the sun blazing, the bugs just a buzzing. He told me he'd been practicing holding his breath under the water. So he dove under the water and he held his breath for 1 minute, then for 2. Then I was calling his name. Scared, I stood up, pulling my shirt off to dive after him. I called his name again. I jumped in, swimming as fast as I could, opening my eyes beneath the water, prepared to reach out for his limp body and drag him upward. But he was missing. I swam around, worry growing within me. I screamed his name into the dark blue. I pushed against the water the best I could until I reached the surface, my eyes burning with water and tears. Please, I screamed, please stop this now. This isn't funny. Please. Another minute went by. I didn't know who I was pleading with, him or a God had never answered my prayers before. Why would he listen to please over a boy like this? Then though he broke the surface of the water, laughing like he was the sun and I loved him. I learned my lesson here and never believed him when he ever did it again. But sometimes I still worry. This was only the beginning for him and me. He could always come and visit me at dinner. He would always come and visit me at the diner. While I worked all day, he'd sit in the corner and order a cup of coffee every few hours, and he'd lurk and he'd watch not just me, but the other patrons, like some animal waiting for his prey. He knew it worried me, but I know he did it out of love. He said he watched them for me, like an attack dog, waiting for an intruder. But I also believed he was harmless. As I was leaving the diner one night, I got the sense of something watching me. Something following me while the diner still sang with life behind me. Hello? I called to nothing. I pulled my taser from my purse, waiting for something to jump out at me. My car, my safety was only a few feet away. When nothing came out, I hurried to my car, unlocking it as fast as my fumbling fingers would let me, and getting into the sweet relief of a closed, locked door. I started up my car and left the diner. My drive home was normal until I heard the sound of breathing coming from behind me, paired with the sound of an irregular shuffle, a shift in movement. Fear flooded me. I almost hit the brakes, ready to scream, to do anything, when the car came to a stop. Red illuminated the street and the interior of my car. I turned around and crouched on the floor. Was him. Shh, he said, and he smiled, a big, love-filled, toothy smile. It turned my stomach. Then the light was green again. On the verge of tears, I kept driving. He knew I was angry with him for doing that. I thought I was going to die, and all he could do was wrap his arms around me and lay kisses into my neck. Sweet, delicate kisses that made me want to forgive him for frightening me that way. It made me wonder what else he would do, the lengths he would go just to scare me, to tell me he loved me. It was our first date night in weeks. After spending all week at the diner, my feet hurt, my back hurt, my neck hurt. Oh, I sat on the couch in my pajamas in a tired daze, the taxidermy deer head on the wall staring at me. He got the movie on the television started. He flicked off the light. Nothing but the glow of the TV lit up the room. He soon stood behind the couch, standing over me when he leaned over and put his hands on me. all over my body, rubbing my shoulders deeply. The tension and aches falling away while he leaned into my neck, taking in my scent. He took my hair from its bun and he breathed me in, placing kisses on my neck. He crept around the couch, eyeing me as he did. Then he sat next to me, massaging my arms, his lips on mine, his lips on my neck, my collarbone. Ah, purple love bite formed where his lips left. Baby, I complained. The movie went on, and neither of us paid it any mind. He kept kissing me until he was on top of me, my legs wrapped around him, desperate to have him closer. His hands on my thighs, to my sides, to my breasts. He was all over me. His tongue danced on my neck. His teeth dug gently into my skin. They dug deeper and deeper, and I flinched away in pain. What are you doing? He looked at me, his eyes black, like he wanted to devour me. Did you want to frighten me again? I steeled myself and cupped his face. If I wasn't afraid of him, would he still love me? His hand slipped up me. Do you trust me? He asked quietly. I nodded. Then I felt a hand around my throat, soft at first. I stared him deep in his eyes. I did trust him. He squeezed a little bit tighter, leaning in for a kiss. I pressed my lips against his, and he squeezed tighter. I could feel my heart begin to beat faster. My eyes went wider, glazing over to the deer head who still stared at me. He put his free hand on my chest, feeling the race of my heart. Then he pulled his hand away from my throat, and my lungs expanded, needing the air they could get. He laid his head down on my chest, listening to my heartbeat, listening to my fear. One night at the diner, a man sat at the next table next to us. I took his order, and as I walked away, he grabbed me. I slapped his hand, and the man grinned, but he didn't. I turned my face away from him, not daring to meet whatever glare he was sure to have on his face. Don't touch the lady, all right? Was all he said to the man before I got out of earshot. Throughout the day, the man continued to flirt while he sat on high alert. He watched the man while I waited for meals and took orders, but he never took his eyes off him. And when the man left, he followed closely behind. The rest of the night was slow, and I arrived to a dark and quiet home. Baby? I called to him, waiting for him to jump out from around the corner. I sat my purse down, eyeing the shadows to find him lurking about. Baby, where are you? I went toward the kitchen, and a strange sound touched my ears. Ravenous, chewing, and eating sounds came from the kitchen. The closer I got, the more splatters of blood painting the carpet and the walls I followed. Baby, I called again, just begging him to respond at this point. But again, he was quiet. I stepped finally onto the kitchen and gasped at the sight. A puddle of blood on the floor. The man from the diner, laying with pieces of flesh gone, and him eating meat from bone like a wild animal. The man's face, an eternal scream as he lay there motionless while my beloved devoured him. Then he got a good look at me, terrified. He stopped, lifting his head, blood all over his face. Then he smiled, and I saw love again in his eyes. Come here, girl, he whispered. I shook my head, backing into the wall behind me. He wanted me closer, but I was stuck against the wall. Come here, he said again. I shook my head again, tears falling freely. Then he really saw my fear and moved over the body and crawled to me. I love you. I was too frozen with fear to move. He wrapped his arms around me, his blood-stained face resting on my stomach, soaking my t-shirt with red. I love you, he whispered. I love you so much, he said. I love you too, I told him. And I did. End reading. Wow. Wow, Tiara, that was something else. That was phenomenal, by the way. Wow. I'm like, I'm still, I think I'm still in shock from the experience because it was so moving. Uh, Hands down, like literally hands down, what was so well done. Your world building for the story was very, very well done. You do a very, very excellent job of combining your world building with the structure and grammar of the story. And it creates this unique stylistic tone that really serves the character well and shows this very dark romance, which you're like, okay, originally harmless in the beginning, but then it starts getting more and more intense with each of those scenes, right? We have the diner scene, we have the car sneaking into the car scene, like that's creepy AF. And then we have the TV scene where they're almost hook up, leading to that final moment where he's basically a cannibal, right? And I think I think it's cannibalism. It might have just been him killing him on the floor. And I think that for the same things that actually work very well for the piece, I think there's some minor opportunities for some of the descriptions to clarify. Now, I saw your story and I saw you dropped a comment. Yeah, and I'm looking at some of the comments in here. Awesome. And by the way, engineer, I saw you dropped a comment. I'll answer it right after this reading. But let's see. So pew pew. I'm on Kauffman time. Kauffman starts exactly when he means to. Okay. So let's see. So we had some really, really good things. Tiara, I saw you said low key realizing I might have sent an older version. Not much is different, but little things that bother me. Yeah. And especially when we look between drafts, we're always know like, yeah, I know I fixed that. And I know I didn't fix that. So with that being in mind, Tiara, I'll probably give you obviously some feedback. But if there's something like, yeah, you're already fixed, then obviously don't worry about it. Yeah, Marta, you'd like to get to know if my friend Avalon Benjamin has submitted her story for today's stream. I do not believe so. I can double check. Yeah, Marta, I do not see a story from Avalon. I would suggest they resubmit. And let's see, I'll drop the link. Let's see if I have it queued up. I'll drop the link down in the chat if you want to share it with them. There you go. There's the submission link. But yeah, I didn't see one from your friend, but I just dropped that in the chat for you. Yeah, and this is interesting, right? Because he comes across with as a lot of toxic red flags, and I think this is something that we're going to get into. This girl needs a safe word. I love that. That's hilarious. Oh man, that cracks me up. Yeah, so you guys are actually getting to one of the points why I actually think is the biggest opportunity for this. Oh, I don't know. You guys' comments crack me up. We don't ask why someone stays with vampires, so I get it. Naming the character could be a good thing, absolutely. All right, so Tiara, let's dig into the meat of it. So, starting from the beginning, a lot of the community members were actually calling out very similar things on my mind. So, once again, the tone, your world building is spot on. I think that is the one element of the story which is actually perfect. The biggest opportunity is the character development. Now, it's actually not for your protagonist. The character development for your protagonist is actually pretty clear. It's setting up a little bit more character development and clarifying for our little evil serial killer slash cannibal of a boyfriend. All right. So when we go here, starting from the beginning, He liked to frighten me to show me he loved me. It started with the pranks, hiding behind the fridge door. And then something I wasn't clear about, or something I just forgot to ask. Tiara, was this the beginning of the story? Is this the beginning, or is there a previous or a prior like entry, prologue, or chapter to it? This kind of comes across to me like it feels like it's probably a short story. Probably I think a little longer than flash fiction. Let's see how many words. It's 15, so little longer. Okay, cool. So this is the beginning. Just wanted to clarify. Okay. He liked to frighten me to show me he loved me. It started with the pranks, the hiding behind the fridge door while I had it open coming up behind. So what I do like about this is you're starting off with that he frightens to shows you're starting off with the tone of it, which can work, right? And you're setting up with the creepiness of his character from the very beginning. He watched me watch, growing more and more terrified at the girl running from the killer on screen from me. He smiled, he looked at me. So you I think my only challenge with this is, while this does phenomenal foreshadowing, this is great. You have so much foreshadowing spread throughout the story that this beginning is almost like it's hitting us on the nose a little bit. So for the reader to make it feel as believable as possible, because I think a couple of the other writers brought up a great point. Why does she stay with him so long? Now, obviously, we know it's because of love, right? You love who you love. And once you fall in love with a serial killer, like, you picked the wrong person. Sorry for you. But with this character, I think what would really help is, I think, creating either an additional prologue to this, not a prologue, but just an additional entry before this that needs to lead up and show them. I think what would work is, you want to make him the most like, you want it to be the most romantic date of her entire life. And I think that would be the way to start with this. And I think I would frame him as a kind of like, the awkward poet type character, right? Awkward poet, like, or maybe like the awkward emo poet, like, okay, she could tell that he had a dark side to him, but it's an artsy vibe, right? And I think if you set it up as, it's literally the most romantic thing. Like, the beginning should be purely romantic. And I think her sensing a darkness, I think that would be good. But assuming that the darkness is just like any other normal person. And I think if you set that up as the beginning without doing the frightening thing, he liked to frighten me to show me he loved me, but they were just stupid pranks. So I think whenever you talk about, and this is just in the beginning, I think whenever you talk about the way that he frightens her, you then should follow it up with her minimizing it, because that's what we do. That is a very normal thing in relationships that become abusive or relationships that become dark. What happens to a lot of victims, and this is obviously, I'm not speaking from experience, but this is just speaking from select friends, some research that I've done over time. Nobody wants to be in an abusive situation. Nobody wants to be in a situation with a serial killer, obviously, but it always starts out innocent. It always starts out innocent. And then as it transcends, as it spirals over time, it becomes this tipping point of their extreme love, but then it creates this aggressor and submissive almost balance where they feel like they cannot leave because they end up needing them. So the way to show it with her is, yes, do the frightening part, but then for her to minimize, he liked to frighten me to show me he loved me, but they were just stupid pranks. But they were just boyish pranks. It wasn't that big of a deal. If she minimizes the way that she feels every single time he does something up until we get near the climax, then that will create very, very good tension, and it will make it a little bit more believable of why did she stay with him, right? Because like, let's be real, right? If you went on a date with if you went on a first or second date, and on like the second or third date, or maybe after, even within that first month is technically the honeymoon. If somebody gets in your car, hides in your car, and scares you, like, that would probably turn off a good deal of people. So the only way that moment would work is you would have to have history by that point. That would have to be the thing. And for her to be scared in the moment, but then for her to to be like, okay, well, that's well, he just loves me. It's okay. You want to speak to her being afraid, which you did do well, but then also minimizing it. And I think just playing into that a little bit. Yeah, I'd agree. I took it as someone who doesn't know how to leave a toxic relationship, even though she loves him. It adds so many more colors other than the blood red. Agreed. That's it. And like something like this, usually people who end up in abusive relationships, not saying that this is always the case, but usually they have a history. So usually it's a type where if they are not getting help, they're not getting some type of therapy, they're not trying to work through whatever trauma is they're unable to work through, they usually have a history. So this character would probably benefit, our protagonist would probably benefit from having a string of other relationships in her past which were unsuccessful because of toxic traits. But this one is the first relationship that feels like a true love, which is why she's fallen for him. And I think that's how you'd play this out. Let's see. Absolutely. I think this would be a very common thing for, right, a female late at night, probably just got off work, diner, maybe it's middle of nowhere, go to the back car. Like I'm sure like any woman in this day and age is probably checking the back seat. Like that we've seen too many horror movies. We've seen way too many horror movies to not check the back seat. Wow. I'm like, actually, I do the same thing. I'm not even a woman. I do the same exact thing. I'm like, no, thank you. I don't want to drive down the street and then have somebody start strangling me. We always see how it happens in the horror movies. Yep, engineer, absolutely go for it. Absolutely. Go for it. Absolutely submit. We didn't have too many submissions today. So we might be able to get into it. Absolutely. All right. So we already honed in on that point. Please ice cream. Please stop this now. This isn't funny. So this is good. Okay, so this is good that this her getting scared. This is actually a very good moment with the creek moment. I think what you need to show after this thing is like this is scared. You need to show how he responds in this moment, right? You need to show him come up for air and then for him to apologize. You do need him to apologize because you want the reader to feel like, oh, okay, it was a mistake, he dove too far. You want to, in the first couple moments like this, you want to have that plausible deniability, like, oh, okay, now we know he did it intentionally, but at this point in the story we want the reader to believe, okay, well, maybe it was on accident, right? Maybe he just dove really deep. So something like that. And then for him to be apologize and be like, I'm so sorry. I, I love swimming. I love trying to go as deep as possible. You could actually probably play into a sex pun with it too, actually. Do the sexual aspect of it. I wasn't sure what their ages were, but I get the feeling that sexuality is probably a big aspect of their relationship. And let's see, so good, like an attack dog. He said he watched them for me like an attack dog waiting for an intruder. Great description. Great, what's that, similes? Great, yep. Absolutely love that description. Hello, I called another thing. I turned around and crouched on the floor when the car came to a stop. Okay, so this is the intruder scene. The intruder scene was good. I think for a moment I wasn't super clear that he was the one in the back seat. I thought it might have been something else, only because this is the second instance of a creepy moment. So I think I turned around, crouched on the floor was him. Shh, he said, and he smiled a big love-filled toothy smile. This is creepy, right? And I think the same thing as the water scene. I think we need to see his response, right? Shh, he said, and he smiled. And if she saw that, she would probably like jump. Or maybe she jumps and she accidentally hits the horn, right? And then this moment right here, the shh, he said and smiled a big love filled toothy smile. That's great. Keep that. But after this, his response of once he sees that she's scared, oh, I'm sorry, baby. My car broke down. My car broke down and I fell asleep in the back. I'm sorry, baby. I fell asleep in the back. I love you. Right? Plausible deniability. Right? Because why would she stay with him deep down, she knows something's wrong, but she needs to hear it. And this is something that abusers will do, right? They will use plausible deniability to keep gaslighting. So that's what's not in the story. We need to show how he is gaslighting her. That is the biggest thing. So gaslighting is the number one trait we are missing from his character development right now. It's subtextual, it's there, but we need to see a little bit more physical reasons for it. That's what I would recommend. I checked the back seat in the daylight. Yeah, you and me both, friend. Yeah, we want to make sure that there's no Chuckies in the back. So you're like, come on, friends. If I see a doll, if I ever like walked in my car and there was a doll that looked like Chucky, I ain't going near the car. No, thank you. Can I still? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Like I said, there wasn't too many submissions today. So you guys definitely feel free to submit. And always I go through the submissions in order and whatever we can get to within the time. If I don't get to your piece today, then it gets saved for the next critique show. Courtney, yes, I did. I got yours queued up. Absolutely. The one thing I didn't get, Courtney, and I forgot to ask, is you're going to just have to let me know where you want me to start in the story, especially for pieces where we've done sections. I'm just not going to remember the page. So you're going to have to let me know what page you're going to want me to start on. All right, perfect. And then Tiara is our first day. I sit on the couch. And once again, your world building, great. Taxidermy deer, creepy. That's why your world building is awesome. I really think it's just the character development. I think it's just our antagonist character development. He looked at me, his eyes black like he wanted to devour me. I think the movie scene was actually really well done. I think you did the movie scene the best because we get his, do you trust me? This is a little gaslighting here. So I think the movie scene was the most well done so far because we kind of get that gaslighting. And then I think if we do the gaslighting and you get the true love, the happy honeymoon phase, I think it will make sense why she's stuck with him. I think it's there. It is there. It's just not enough right now. Let's see. I went out. The man said, I walked away. He grabbed me. I slapped his hand, and the man grinned, and he did. My face away, not during. Don't touch lady, all right? Was all he said to the man. This one, this scene, the diner scene, needs a little setup. If she was working, I didn't know that the boy was there at the diner. I'm like, don't touch the lady, and I was like, wait, did this man say it? I was kind of, or was this like a coworker? Of course, in the context of the story, I'm like, okay, right. It was probably the guy, but just I would add a paragraph and set this up. Don't touch the lady, all right? It was all right. I turned around and he got up from the booth. I turned around and he dropped his hoodie from the booth behind as he looked at me and winked. Those dark eyes shimmering in the depths of his soul. Something to that effect. So it just needs a little setup for physical setup. And then we get to the death scene. Ooh, creepy death scene. I love it. I think the only thing I wasn't clear on, the man from the diner laying with piece of his flesh gone. Yep. Okay. So it was cannibalism. Cool. I thought I might have missed that. So yep. So he's a little cannibal. I think with him being a cannibal, then what we need to do is you need to do a little foreshadowing him in the gaslighting earlier in the story. I would say pick 2 instances because it's number 3. Pick 2 instances earlier in the story where you have him reference eating meats or that he's a meat lover, reference things that could be suggestive of cannibalism, but it needs to be so discreet that the reader only recognizes those moments when she sees him eating. The man from the diner laying with pieces of his flesh gone and him eating meat from bone like a wild animal. The moments of I'm a meat eater, the moment of so-and-so flashed back to me and it all made sense. Now, this is beautiful. This is such a beautiful description. The man's face, an eternal scream as he lay there motionless when my beloved devoured him. Oof, spine tingling. Creepy. Great job. And this is good. I'm like, I wanted to know what happened. I love you, he whispered. I love you so much, she said. I would almost like I was too afraid. He wrapped his arms around me. Yeah, this is creepy. I love you too, I told him. She accepts it. She accepts our little cannibal of a lover. I think this will only work if he does. He has to do something extremely romantic. Even though he's clearly blood covered all his face, dead body there. I think he has to do something extremely, extremely romantic or deeply emotional for her to accept this moment. Because this is like the climax right here, or the scene. This is the moment. This is the rock bottom moment when she sees the abuse literally right in front of her, or the serial killer, and she chooses to accept it, either because she's too afraid or because she feels like there is literally no other option. Even if he was like, thank you for leading him to me. Right. So if he suggests that she's an accomplice, that's going to make her feel like she's trapped, and she's going to accept the fantasy. So that'd be my description or my suggestion. Awesome. And Tiara, that's all that I got for you, my friend. That was an excellent, excellent story. I always absolutely adore your storytelling and your style as it comes to the tonality and like just the creepiness of the type of worlds that you set up. So that was absolutely fun. Thank you so much, my friend. Beautiful. And with that one set, let's do a quick, if you're enjoying the stream, follow and subscribe. I'm right here with the Right Now community every single day, 270 days and counting, to help you with the process, lifestyle, and mindset that it takes to write that first book, to get that first series published, and to give you the motivation to become a professional author. So tap those buttons and you'll be alerted when we go live. We have many live events coming up between podcast, our critique show, blurb events. We have live author events. We have readings. We have our fiction contest. We have our choose your own adventure holiday series. We got a lot. And once we hit 500 subscribers, we are less than 20 away. We will be launching the Right Now Discord channel. So tap those follow and subscribe button and you'll be alerted when we go live. All right, perfect. So we got both of those all set. Wonderful, wonderful. So let's see. So I know I got a couple of submissions. Okay, perfect, Courtney. You took out what we already did. Awesome. So I can just start at the beginning. Wonderful. Let's see. Koff, is it okay if I use the same world as Dragons of Steel? Because my main kingdom is so big that I intend each of the 4 covenants to have their separate threats and monsters and such. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's absolutely all right. As you use the same world. Yeah, because essentially what you're doing is you're fleshing out the universe and you're exploring just different characters or different story elements from the same universe. I think that's fun. It gives you more room to flesh out and explore different parts of it. Absolutely. I think the protagonist might need a flashback? Not necessarily. I would actually start the present moment of them falling in love, then doing a flashback. I mean, you could get away with it if the first moment that she feels fear, she thought back to the moment they fell in love. You could do that. I think the romance and keeping it in the present will just make the story stronger though. Yeah, I completely agree. This was it was like a perfect mix for this type of like serial killer type story. It was absolutely this dark, dark romance. Um, let's see. Absolutely. I hope mine gets read today. I can't be here every day. Yeah, I totally understand. Because this is a daily writing live stream, my goal with it is like I don't expect every writer to show up every day. Obviously, if they do, you're awesome because we're trying to get our books written. But I imagine in the perfect world, because we all got lives, right? We're trying to do this on the side, that this is the type of community where we have something going on daily, and that for most writers' schedule, as long as you can show up a couple times a week, 3 to 4 times a week, you get to pick the days that work for you, whether it's writing streams or whether it's writing sprints, or you rather kick back and listen to stories or listen to an author podcast. We got it all. So I totally understand, engineer. Let me check the, all right, so let me check the submissions. All right, so it looks like I did get another one. I see. Perfect. So as I'm looking in here, I see, let me pull it up. I'm going to drop this. We're going to queue up the next story. So engineer, did I see your story submission in here? So I'll get it queued up and I'll pull it out, but I definitely see it in here. I believe Marta, I don't see your submission in here yet, but definitely whenever you're ready, my friend. Okay. So the next story we're going to get queued on deck, we're going to be doing Sean, we got Summer's Reign. Oof, man, am I excited for this. So, for those of you who remember and have been joining us for a while, I think we did the first excerpt of Sean's script sometime. I think it must have been episode 10 or 11. It was almost 20 episodes ago, 20 critique shows ago. So we've gone through the entire script. This is probably the first the first full-length project that we've explored the entire story on the stream. We are finally at the epic finale of Summer's Reign. So it's super exciting. I want to say that we finally got the true climax. We got the climax, so that means we're probably in the remainder of the climax / resolution. But we finally got that epic reveal where Billy, the up and coming young cop whose wife was brutally murdered, we finally learned the cold truth that Billy was the killer. Not only did that, he ended off Miss Summers, who we had been led to believe the entire script that Summers was the evil antagonist. And while she wasn't quite as evil as Mr. Billy and his kids. His two kids are his evil little henchmen accomplices. So we're going to get to see the depths of it as we explore. Not only that, Billy also killed his partner, who was the other protagonist. So now we're left with our unreliable narrator / or unreliable, technically main character / protagonist, and we're going to be seeing what's about to happen. So this is crazy. I hope you guys are ready for this. I know, Courtney. This is what I'm like, are we ready? Are we ready to finish it? I don't know if I would say epic. It will definitely be epic. I think it will definitely be epic. How long till yours? It's all I can't. Great question, engineer. I can't give an approximation. I would say right now, I believe I have 3 stories ahead of yours. So once we get there, it's because each story kind of takes a different amount of time. Some are shorter and some are longer, so it's kind of hard to give an approximation. But I try to average each story out at about 20 minutes. And then that combined with our breaks and any of the advertisements is probably like about a 5 to 10 minute break in between. So that might give you a little indication. So I got 3 stories ahead of yours, and we'll get into yours. Absolutely. Cool. Marta, you got a little time. You got a little time since I have a couple stories ahead. So I would say please separate the paragraphs for me. Otherwise, it makes it hard to read on screen and it's hard for readers to read along. So I would say if you could just make sure to separate the paragraphs, totally no pressure. You got time, my friend. Okay. So let's get into it. So Summer's Reign. Excellent. So we're going to be pulling this up right here. And then let me make sure I got everything set. All right. Awesome. Excellent. Excellent. So we got this. I think I have it all set on my end. I wanted to make sure that I had this queued up. All right, Sean. So I have your final draft. We got your script all pulled up. Let me cue this guy up. All right, and here we go. All right, so let me pull this up just a little bit more so we can make sure we see it. Perfect. Want to make sure it's large enough for you. All right, there we go. So we got this epic finale. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay. Summer's Rain, horror thriller, the conclusion. Exterior, Miss Summer's home, night later. A half dozen cop cars surround Miss Summer's house. Yellow tape blocks neighbors from getting any closer. Interior, Miss Summer's home, kitchen, night. Billy sits in a chair, bloody and tired. An EMT, An EMT, 30s, works on his shoulder as cops walk from room to room downstairs. Police officers head upstairs as Sergeant McClintock kneels next to Billy. How are you doing? I've had better. How is it? Not as bad as it looks. So let me get this straight. You and Nick were answering a noise disturbance call, and then I don't know. I remember Miss Summers coming after us with a knife. She was screaming about corrupt cops and her grandson. After she stabbed me, I think she got Officer Lewis's gun. I remember hearing it go off, but I passed out soon after that. I would really like to head home to my kids, Sarge. Officer Burns runs into the house from the garage. Sarge, her car is gone. Sergeant McClintock leaves Billy and heads to the garage while Officer Burns stays. Billy hears cops upstairs walking around. Their voices carry through the house as they shout. Jesus Christ, someone get up here now! Multiple bodies found! We need help up here! Officer Burns begins to head to the staircase when he hears a loud coming from down the hallway. Interior Miss Summer's home, hallway continuous. Officer Burns walks down the hallway, looking into different rooms. As he gets to one of the closed doors, he can hear faint moans behind it. Officer Burns grabs his gun. He opens the door quickly. Interior Miss Summer's house, laundry room continuous. Jackets cover a motionless body, leaning up against the washing machine. Officer Burns reaches for the jackets and pulls them away, revealing Rob with his mouth duct taped, his hands tied behind his back, and third-degree burns covering his face. Rob's shirt is stained with blood coming from the gash in his head. Officer Burns slowly walks up to him, opening his eyes. Rob catches Officer Burns' glance. Shouting towards the hallway, "Hey, I got a live one here!" Interior Miss Summer's house, foyer continuous. Sarah bursts through the front door, officers trailing behind, trying to stop her from entering. Where is my husband? Billy sees Sarah in the foyer, running into the hallway towards him. She screams when she reaches the kitchen, notices all the blood around. The officers grab her and remove her from the house. Billy watches as Sarah is dragged out. He looks back towards the hallway where Officer Burns is gone, confidence in his cover-up feigning. Interior Miss Summer's house, laundry room continuous. Officer Burns removes the tape from Rob's mouth. You're okay. Well, you're going to be okay. Can you tell us what happened here? Rob breaks eye contact with Officer Burns. He sees the two jackets of the boys laying next to him. His eyes widen and start to water, processing everything that happened tonight as he takes a breath in to talk. Exterior Billy's home later. Streetlights illuminate the quiet roads. Lamps downstairs in the Walls house can be seen glowing through the windows. Interior Billy's home, kitchen night. Brad and Eric sit around the kitchen table, which has been set for 3. Softly, sirens can be heard in the distance, slowly getting closer. As the boys stare at each other, 2 naked bodies hang upside down in the kitchen over dirty green buckets. Blood drips from both Miss Summers and Nick's bodies as police cars can be heard pulling up their driveway. Ooh, that's creepy. That is creepy. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And that is the ending. Wow, Sean. So first off, I think though those really big reveals, I think the reveal that Rob was still alive, because we had been left to believe that the Rob character was dead. That was actually a really nice touch. I definitely thought Rob was a dead man, our poor neighbor Rob. And then I want to say that I liked that we had the kids with the Nick and Miss Summers body. That was interesting. That was really, really interesting. And the thing that he forgot was the jackets. That's right. So the thing that Billy forgot was the jackets. He basically he pulled the kids out to make it look like he had shown up on the scene and that Miss Summers basically attacked him. He basically took out the full thing with Nick. Okay. So this is where I'm at. I'm mixed on the ending, and I'll tell you why. So I actually like the foreshadowing. I like this first half with all the cops here. This is great, right? We get our McClintock. I always loved the sergeant to begin with. So I always like that. I've had better. This is all good. And then we get Billy with his story. I think this can probably just be condensed, more line editing than anything. But overall, this moment is good. Sarge, her car is gone. Sergeant McClintock leaves Billy and heads to the garage. Billy heads. Jesus Christ, someone get up here now. Oh, awesome. And then we get these things. Now they're obviously calling out to all of the bodies that Miss Summers had skinned down. They're obviously calling to all the bodies and all the victims that Miss Summers had killed, right? Miss Summers is a killer. Billy just happens to also be a killer. Let's see, Officer Burns. So that's good. That ends off that. This kind of ends off the Miss Summers plot line. I'm trying to think from a character development. I think I'm trying to think of if everything was tied off with Miss Summers. It kind of feels like the gangbanger, that the gang plot line feels like there needed to be tied off at some point, but I'd have to reread that part because I was expecting the gang to be integrated into it in some way, shape, or form. Um, yeah, yeah. Let's see. It's like Billy. I don't know. I remember Summers coming after us with a knife. She was screaming about corrupt cops and her grandson. After she stabbed me, I think she got Officer Lewis's gun. We're hearing it. Yeah, so he basically took the kids out of the picture. He took Nick out of the picture and the kids out of the picture, and it's basically saying that he showed up to the Summers household. He didn't know that the kids' jackets had been removed, which is smart. It's actually smart breadcrumbing, and I did like it. The dead gangbangers are in the attic. Billy never saw the attic, so Billy doesn't actually know what Billy doesn't actually know. Um, I think right now the one thing I'm not clear about was for his cover story. Why did he show up at Miss Summers' house? I forgot that. I forgot if there was a dispatch to the Summers house. Why Billy or what Billy's excuse was for being at the Summers house. I think so because, and this is actually the same story challenge right now with Nick as well. Wouldn't If Nick was at the house, wouldn't Nick have been dispatched? Wouldn't Billy and Nick have both been dispatched? So then the question is like I think you can get away with it that Billy basically hides Nick. Um the question is why does Billy go to the trouble of hiding Nick when he could just say that Miss Summers killed him? And then Miss Summers' body is also gone. And I guess that makes sense. I guess because they're cannibals, they basically wanted the fresh meat. But then with Miss Cannibal's car, so essentially his cover story is that Miss Summers tried to come at him and then he passed out. He doesn't know where she went. He just knows that she's gone. The car's gone. All right. So they're basically saying that Miss Summers disappeared. Okay. But really, he wanted the bodies for cannibalism. That's right. Nick got the call from dispatch from Sarah's husband. That's right. Okay. So Nick got that. Then they're going to wonder what happened to Nick. So then they're going to be asking the dispatch. Well, okay. They're like, well, officer, Nick was stationed here. Where's Nick at? I think, sir, I think to add tension, I think McClintock should ask Billy about Nick as well. So let me get this straight. You and Nick were answering a noise disturbance call. Okay, so that was part of it. He did ask. It was him and Nick. I don't know. Remember, Miss Summers coming after us. She was screaming. After she stabbed me, I think she got Officer Lewis's gun. I remember hearing it go off, but I passed out soon after that. Okay, so actually, I think that does work. Now that I think about it, I think that does work. So then the story is that he got stabbed, he passed out, and then a gunshot went off. So she shot him, and then she took him, and they got away, and they fled. The missing piece was that the boys' jackets are there because that's not part of the story. Okay. I think what I'm asking myself is it important? Yeah. So I think maybe just breaking it up with a couple more questions specifically because I think we have I think what would serve this scene better would be Billy should break up each section of the story because Billy's probably thought this out. Billy's probably really thought this out. So yeah, I think break it up into McClintock asks a question, Billy explains it in each section, and this is more a dialogue theme. And then obviously that ending works with him not knowing what happened. And I think that's good. Yeah, and I actually like that with the Sarah and Rob bit that Billy didn't actually know what. And this was my question: if Billy, well, okay, sorry, Billy was in his own car, so Billy wouldn't have heard. Actually, okay, actually, this is something. So I Billy got it. We'll make more dialogue. So Billy wouldn't have heard the dispatch call that got sent out to Miss Summers' house. You might actually be able to add this just as a random point of foreshadowing. If he just missed the dispatch call, officer, if they tried to dispatch it to him, but Nick's the one who picked up and said, "Yes, I'll find my partner and we'll go there," something like that. That might add a little bit of tension. I forgot if you did something like that, but for Billy to have just missed the dispatch call, that was actually the neighbors. Was actually the dispatch with the neighbors because he's freaking out about his kids being missing. The only thing with this is wouldn't the police have the front of the house stationed off by now? How would Sarah be able to get in? A half dozen cops surround Miss Sarah's house, yellow tape blocks. Sarah, she screams. Billy sees Sarah. Sarah bursts to the front door. Officers trailing behind, trying to stop her from entering. Okay, good, good, good. So you did do that. I think. Oh, and this is just a setup thing. I think we should hear her off screen before we see her rushing in. And this is just a screen point. So I think have a Sarah's maybe give her like two lines, maybe have her voice, have her be a voiceover, and then we see. I imagine it. Billy scene, Officer Burns. Hey, I got a live one here. This one should be a cut to Billy, so we kind of get a little bit of tension, him nervous, and then the scene, oh, she overhears a voice. Who's that? Sarah. We see the Sarah shot, her pushing through the door, and then she sees the blood curdling scream, and she looks straight at Billy. I think there would actually be a really good moment of Sarah looking straight in Billy's eyes. Obviously, they don't really know each other. Obviously, she doesn't know he's involved, but I think you could have a really good hint there of Sarah and Billy having an eye contact moment. That would be good. You're okay. Don't save. Breaks eye contact. I really liked the Rob reveal. I really like that because we thought Rob was dead. I really liked that. And then our ending. So we get Rob breaks eye contact with Officer Burns. He sees the two jackets of the boys laying next to him. His eyes widen and start to wonder. So with the jackets of the boys, I think what I would recommend to make this moment stand out, with the boys should be their own paragraph first off, because it should be its own moment. I think one of the boys' jackets should have their name on it. I think the older one, I think in the next draft of it, I think you make the older one a little more emo. You make him one of those, give him one of those jackets that has like all the patches on it that kids that just like that style where it's patches of different bands or different logos. Give him that kind of punk vibe, but it's a unique jacket. It has to be a very, very unique jacket. Obviously, Rob wouldn't have seen it, but I actually think you could get away with it. I think when Rob and Nick make the original dispatch call when Billy and Nick make the original dispatch call, I think if you have the older boy in the car, like maybe he got in trouble and he had to bring along. And I think if you have a moment where Rob sees the boy with that jacket, I think that would be a very nice foreshadowing that can then call to this specific moment. And I think if you use a jacket, I think that would make it really stand out. So that would be my recommendation. Because just two jackets of the boy, the two jacket, like they could be any two jackets. This just isn't enough. Obviously, the viewer knows and the viewer would know. And obviously the police, like they'll figure it out eventually. But I think for a cinematic visual reason, you make it as visually interesting as possible. And I think you just need to create a moment for Rob to have seen Billy's boy. And I think the older one is the one to go with at some point earlier in the script. It will then tie to this moment very, very well. And this will be like a visual moment of Rob breaks eye contact. He sees the jacket because he remembers the jacket. And we remember unique jackets when they're very stylish or they're unique for their own thing. So I think that would be great. And then this last moment, I think I do like this. So I think I like that this is our last moment of Raw. So I actually think our last moment of Billy should be that look between Billy and Sarah. And I think that would actually be very profound. Then we go to the Officer Burns Rob moment with the jacket. Then the jacket cuts to Billy's home. We have Brad and Eric sitting at the table with them and the two buckets, Miss Summers and Nick's bodies, as police cars can be heard pulling up their driveway. Yeah. And I think that works. I think the only other thing I'm thinking that might be, I something to do with the gangbang, the gang member scene. I because technically that wasn't part of the overarching climax. Technically that was with Nick. I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I feel like the gang scene or the gang member should somehow be incorporated into Billy's final story, but I'd have to think about it. But overall, though, it was awesome. I like that we ended up back here with the bodies. I think the other thing we're missing is why Brad and Eric had gone along with everything. What I remember from the last excerpt was that Brad and Eric, we saw that they went along, but I think we're missing the exact emotional moment, either a flashback that could be included as part of that original flashback, or the new moment of the boys choosing to accept cannibalism and accept their father. Obviously, like it's their father, they've accepted it, but why did they choose? And I think we need to see that moment because the jacket thing is so important to leading them at the very end. You could also do a something cool, Sean. If you ever wanted to set up for another story, you could do an after credit scene with one of the boys making a run for it. Drips from both Miss Summers and Nick's bodies as police cars can be heard pulling up their driveway. After credit scene, one of the boys goes into a secret compartment beneath the floorboard. You could do something like that if you wanted to set up for another movie. Leaving open ending setups for other movies is always a great call for franchise potential, especially for scripts. So this is a recommendation. I know horror movies don't always have after credit scenes, but it is a format that works, and I think that could for this. And awesome, yeah. So I think that was great. That was really fun. I'm still in disbelief that we literally made it through the entire story, the entire script. Had so much fun with it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, and I think this was a question, right? But if the boys are in it the entire time, why don't the boys think of their own jackets? Yeah, and I think you'll have to have a reason. I think you just have to have a reason that their jackets are left behind. I think you just have to have some type of reason of there has to be some type of shock with the Nick death scene of them being shocked and forgetting the jacket in the heat of the moment. That was Miss Summers' story, but I can make part of Billy's. Yeah, I mean, I think what it is with the Miss Summers story and the gangbang scene, I think what it feels like is there's no I don't feel like there's a resolution for the Miss Summers and gang member scene. Miss Summers kills the random gang member who comes into her house, and I forgot this. If he was the exact gang member who killed her grandson, that I don't remember. If that was great, it probably just needs to be highlighted a little bit more that the resolution was that she killed off all the gang members until she finally worked her way up to him. So I think that was the resolution. I felt like the gang member thing was still hanging in the air a little bit. And I think it's less tying it to Billy. I think it's just more that moment of the grandson arc didn't feel like it got a resolution. And I think that was what was making me think about it. Yeah, both of the parents are cannibals, but not every child follows the teaching of their parents. In fact, most don't. So that's why I would answer that. Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's once again the motivation. So I think of the next draft, Sean, I think the kids I could tell would probably be the biggest opportunity for just highlighting their characters. And I know that's something we've already talked about on previous excerpts. So awesome. Really, really great story, my friend. I am in once again such disbelief that we finally got to the epic ending. It was definitely epic. I loved it. I absolutely love the script in general. I being a horror buff, I would absolutely watch it. This is definitely a movie that I would watch. I loved it. We could have done that actually. And I think we would do it like that actually, ML. That'd be the way to tie that off. I think if she takes the jackets from them, and it's a little more forceful when she takes them, and you make a moment out of the older boy being like, hey, give me my jacket back. And she's like, then she spills something on him. Like, oh, I'm gonna go wash it. So, and then I think if you make a moment of the boy looking for his jacket, but Billy's like, hey, we have to go. We have to go now. I think that's how you could resolve that. Good call, ML. Woo! Looking forward to seeing it in a theater near you. Coming to a screen near you. A future Netflix film movie coming soon. Absolutely love it, my friend. Okay, so with that being said, let's see which one do we got queued up for next. So it looks like I have Courtney, Miss Courtney. So I got your story on deck, Courtney. Falling for a Storm, a contemporary romance. So we're going to be mixing it up. We started off with a little bit of horror. We got some dark romance. We got some thriller and horror. And now we're going to be mixing up with some little bit more contemporary romance. Dark, it is a little on the darker side, but not dark for the same reasons. So we'll definitely be hopping into yours next, Courtney, which is awesome. Future movie poster for behind Kauffman's desk. Yeah, Sean, when the movie gets made, I want the movie poster. We started here in the WriteNow community. That'd be awesome. Oh my God. Anyone who publishes a book in the community, I should like totally get the books and then just line them all up and put them in the background. That'd actually be kind of cool. When I have the streaming up and I actually have a studio, I'll create some type of backdrop for that. That would be so cool. I would love to show all of the published work that we've seen from or that have been done as a result at some point in the community. That's an awesome idea, Courtney. Yeah, so I know she does. Yeah, so I think you just have to make it more obvious. I think you just have to make the reason why the boy doesn't get the jacket back more obvious as well. Right? I think that'd be super cool. That'd be so cool. I'd be so down for that. All right, everybody. Once your books are published, send them my way. No way, I'll purchase a copy. I want to support you guys. So I'll purchase a hardcover copy. And then that way we could get something going. That'd be awesome. All right, beautiful. So we got that. So, and I completely forgot to answer. So, engineer, you asked a really great question earlier. You asked a really great question earlier, engineer, and I completely forgot to answer it. So, like, hey, man, so something really bad happened to a friend. He asked a question in a wheelchair subreddit about how to represent paralytic people in a story, and people went livid over him. Okay, so first off, let's just a little context here. Reddit, and for anybody who is familiar with Reddit and who understands the culture of Reddit, people are very, very direct. Reddit is a I'll just say social media-ish that is known for having a very niche type of following where people are going to be very, very brutally, and when I say direct, brutally direct. I'm not actually surprised that came out of a subreddit thread. So let's set the stage with that one first, recognizing what Reddit tends to do with people. And now he put it out about how to represent a paralytic person in a story. And I think the fact that he wants to represent it, phenomenal. I think that's awesome because showing representation for any marginalized group, any group that isn't represented historically, I think that's amazing. My without knowing more context, without knowing what the exact question was, my guess is that the way your friend framed the question rubbed people the wrong way. My guess is he probably worded the question in a way that was that just wasn't effective and came across offensive. That would be my guess without knowing the question or knowing more context. So with that being said, I think with anything, whenever you write a character that is going to have some type of disability or trait, I think you would want to do research and understanding what does it feel like? What is the lifestyle like for somebody with that type of disability? How do you do that research? You either you reach out on social media, you find people who have that disability and you talk to them. Hey, can I talk to you for an hour? I need to do research because I want to represent this type of disability accurately. You ask all the questions. And I would do that with a couple of different people. Also do research on ways that authors are able to create those characters accurately. And then once feel like you've done enough research, develop the character, and then after you've gone through the drafting process, something that's recommended in this day and age is getting a sensibility reader, or it's not a sensitivity reader. So sensitivity readers are a high recommendation Currently, if you're writing a characters your story that has any type of very marginalized group, and you want them to be written in a way that is still values the character without unintentionally minimizing the disability. Because a lot of writers who don't know actually will unintentionally minimize portions of the disability just through the act of trying to be creative. They're not well informed. So sensitivity readers is a really good call. Yeah, Reddit people, they can be the worst. There's some good ones. Let's say like there are some good ones on there, but Reddit does have a or is known for not having the kindest areas, which is why I'm kind of mixed on Reddit, because I don't like that. I'm of the belief you can have any conversation in a way that is kind and clear and direct, right? But you just have to be clear with what you say. And a lot of times with messages, and even if you're not using emojis, it's easy for things to be taken fully out of context. Exactly, right? And it's like, if you're ever concerned, like, hey, that's this whole other thing, I don't want to chance it, then don't put a character in your story that's disabled. It's really like as straightforward as that. No offense, but Reddit are often are very, yeah, it's true. It's very, very true. That would be another route. Find a veteran. Yep. Veterans would be great to research or interview. I think that'd be a great strategy. Okay, awesome. Okay. So, with that being said, we have something super fun that we're actually going to hop into before we get into your story, Courtney. So let me change up my screen. I have to make sure I have all of this set first off. So bear with me just a second. I have a very cool video to show you guys. Okay, so I'm going to show you guys a super cool video. So so earlier in the week, one of our community members, James WTC, created a short story. He wrote a short story where I was the protagonist, where it was a thriller, horror, this little short horror story, which was super cool. He also wrote an alternative ending to the story for Penelope, who's also helping us put on our fiction competition. We wanted to show the ending because it was very cool for this alternative ending. So the setup of the story was that our young author, Jared Kauffman, went to a high school reunion. And during the reunion, he was trying to network. He's trying to connect with all the old people he had published, or he had books unpublished that were collecting dust, and he was looking for an agent. One of his friends, Sarah Chen, I believe, recommended he talk to one of the literary agents who was at the reunion. And right when she suggested that he go talk to him, blood curdling scream, that literary agent is found dead outside. Jared Kauffman goes out to investigate, and we are left in this thrilling moment as Jared Kauffman is exploring the body, and Greg lifts his head up and points behind him as a hooded figure raises a knife behind Jared Kauffman, and we are left at this point, this moment. So I haven't read this alternative ending. There was the original alternative ending that WTC did that I read the ending. If you want to check out the story itself, it was from Monday's stream. So it was from, let's see, I want to say it was our Monday live stream, which was, where was it? So it was episode 202. So if you want to check it out, it's episode 202 under the new writing streams on the WriteNow YouTube channel. We'll find a place to post up the full story once we have the Discord up. That's where I will post it. But in the meantime, we wanted to get this video for you guys because I wanted, Penelope wanted to read the story for you.
Thanks, Jared. And hey, everybody. I am so excited to give you a sneak preview of what's going to be going on with our Freaky Friday.
All right. And let's see, bear with me just a second as I get this set up. All right, guys. So I got this pulling up right now. We are all set. So let me change this up. I'm going to share the screen. We got the video all queued up. Perfect. I wanted to make sure that we got it. All right. So we got the video all set. So Penelope got a video for us, and this is the epic conclusion of the story. I thought this would be very cool to show. But guys, it's like, I haven't read the story, but the ending is super creepy. The ending is super, super creepy. So all right, just so you guys know. That's so you guys know. So, okay. So let's see what we got here. Let me know if you can't hear it, and I will adjust the volume.
Thanks, Jared. And hey, everybody. I am so excited to give you a sneak preview of what's going to be going on with our Freaky Friday Flash Fiction competition coming this October. And we're going to start a little sneak peek with a flash fiction by James of WTC Creations, what I like to call a crushing revelation. Penelope Hartley adjusted her camera rig with a quick grin, her green eyes sparkling under the street lamps. Known for her in real life streams on ThrillTube, tonight's adventure through the city alleys and quirky spots was bound to entertain her followers. All right. Who suggested the midnight taco stand? Penelope asked with mock indignation, glancing at her chat, scrolling up her phone. You guys are determined to see me crash my diet, aren't you? As expected, the comments came rolling in with teasing remarks and sarcastic suggestions. Tacos after dark, a bold choice, Penelope. We were just here for the entertainment value of you spilling hot sauce everywhere. Live a little, Hartley. The streets were quiet for a Friday night. As Penelope turned down an alley lined with shadowed storefronts, the thrill of live streaming, her connection with thousands, fueled her energy. Spotting an old candy store, she mused about ghost stories, only to be interrupted by a glitch in her stream. Did you guys see that, or is it just me? She asked, confirming the spooky interruption. A loud clatter from ahead spurred her on despite her instincts to flee. Guess we're going in, she declared, pushing forward into the alley where the I am freaking myself out here, sorry. Where the shadows seemed to crowd in around her. Ooh, scary. The alley's end at the alley's end stood a figure in a black coat and a wide-brimmed hat. The chat interrupted an alarm as the figure stepped forward, revealing a pale, sharp-featured face with a twisted grin. Well, the woman's high-pitched, raspy voice echoed. If it isn't Penelope Hartley, live and in terror. It was Jezebel, a fan who had been ominously present in Penelope's streams for weeks. As Penelope backed away, Jezebel lunged, and Penelope's camera tumbled to the ground. The screen went black, leaving the chat in a frenzy. When the stream resumed, it wasn't Penelope's face that greeted the viewer.
Hello, thrill seekers. I'm afraid your dear Penelope is a little tied up at the moment. But don't worry, she asked me to take over her stream. I mean, who doesn't love a good game? The chat exploded in chaos, comments flooding in faster than they could be read. What's going on? Where's Penny? This isn't funny. Let's not lose our heads, shall we? Oh, wait. Penelope might if you don't hurry. She stepped back from the camera, revealing a timer that had popped up on the screen. 6 hours. The seconds began ticking down. You see, my little thrill addicts, Penelope is in a bit of a crunch. Quite literally. She's locked away in a rather precarious position, and if that timer hits 0, well, let's just say she'll be meeting a crushing defeat. You catch my drift? The chat was spiraling out of control. What the hell? Where is she? This has to be fake. Right. Stop the timer. We're calling the cops. Jezebel leaned into the camera, her voice lowering conspiratorially. Don't bother with the cops, my lovelies. By the time they figure out where we are, Penelope will be flatter than a pancake at a trucker's diner. But I've got a little game for you. A treasure hunt. If you're clever enough, you can save her before her expiration date. Penelope's voice suddenly crackled from off-screen, weak but still dripping with her signature sass. You guys better hurry, or I'll be pressing charges against the car compactor. Jezebel threw her head back, laughing like a deranged villain from an old horror movie. Ah, Penelope, you never failed to keep things punny. Now, for your first clue. She paused dramatically, leaning even closer to the camera. I'm in a place where cars come to die and metals piled high in the sky. If you've got a junker, I'm your guy. The chat exploded with guesses. Junkyard. It's a junkyard. She's in a car crusher. Holy crap. Someone find out where the nearest junkyard is. Jezebel clapped her hands, the sound sharp and mocking. Bravo. You're catching on quickly. But will you make it in time? Only one way to find out. Penelope's voice cut in again, more urgent this time. Seriously, don't let her trash my chances. I'm not ready for the scrap heap. Jezebel's grin stretched even wider, her voice turning icy. Tick-tock, tick-tock. Time is running out, my friends. And when the clock hits 0, well, let's just say Penelope will be in pieces. With that, the screen cut to static once more, the timer ticking down relentlessly. The chat was in chaos as the countdown continued. Users frantically exchanged theories, called local authorities, and tried to pinpoint every junkyard in the city. Meanwhile, the timer inched closer and closer to 0. 3 hours. Penelope's voice cut in again, strained but determined. You guys better find me soon, or I'm toast. Crushed toast. Jezebel giggled in the background. Oh, Penelope, you're such a scream. The minutes ticked away, the clock unforgiving. As it reached the final hour, tensions mounted, and chat had grown more frantic. Suddenly, the video feed flickered, and Jezebel reappeared, her face lit by the eerie red glow of the timer. Time's almost up, she whispered. Any last guesses, my dear fans? Penelope's voice was barely audible. Don't let her scrap me. Just as the clock was about to hit 0, the feed abruptly cut out, leaving the screen in total darkness. The final moments of the stream left the audience in suspense. Had they saved Penelope, or had Jezebel claimed victory in her twisted game? Join me this Freaky Friday, my dear scribes. Spin your most spine-chilling stories into my web. The creepier, the better.
Wow, that was creepy. Who would have thought that Miss Jezebel was going to be making a guest appearance? Woof, man. I absolutely love that. That was absolutely incredible. And a little spine tingling, a little haunting. I was not aware that Miss Jezebel in person was not only going to be taking over the show, but was also going to be making a special guest appearance because she is going to be hosting our Freaky Flash Friday competition, which is the perfect tie-in. So for those of you who absolutely loved it. First off, definitely round of applause to Miss Penelope for putting that together and reading. Absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely, absolutely love that. And then second off, to our creepy Miss Jezebel. Oof, man. Who would have thought that that was going to happen? So you will be seeing more of our Miss Jezebel as she is hosting our Freaky Friday Flash Fiction competition. Do you have a story? Do you have a piece of flash fiction that you have yet to submit? Submit now. The submission link for the competition is posted down in the YouTube description. Once you have submitted, 12 finalists are going to be chosen. Of the 12 finalists who are chosen, you're going to get your work published in an anthology. You'll get a one-on-one critique to improve your work. And you also get your story read by a professional published author. And then the 4 winners that will be voted on during the competition itself will win a $20 gift card. The voting will happen by the live community. And the live stream events itself will be Freaky Friday on October 25th and Spooky Saturday on October 26th, with a special after party on our Sunday, October 27th live stream. So absolutely, pilot. Absolutely. So for those of you who want to know more, or let's see, I can probably pull this up. There you go. Right. So you can see, right. So here's our submission form. Let's go this. So we'll go here. And then for those of you who want to know more, let me pull up the link for it. Awesome. And I'll drop that link down here in the chat if you want to. So you can go check out the submission form to see what the requirements are. You can do whatever pilot you want. You can absolutely do whatever you want. Just keep in mind that flash fiction, we are accepting the submissions have to be between 750 words and 1,500. So as long as you're working within that, we are grading it. So Penelope and myself are going to be choosing from all the submissions and choosing the 12 finalists based on readability. You got to have a little editing in there. If it's full of mistakes, it's hard for us to experience it. Spookiness, there has to be an element of horror, mystery, supernatural, or suspense. And the third one will be on style. So how you combine your use of world building, character development, plot, or dialogue. So those are the 3 areas that we will be judging it and choosing the 12 finalists from. But the 12 finalists, the winners, the top 4 winners, the grand prize winners who will be winning the gift cards are going to be chosen by you, the WriteNow community. So you get to choose which stories sound the most awesome on the Freaky Friday and Spooky Saturday live streams. So definitely submit. The submission deadline is Sunday, October 13th. So we still got a couple weeks. You got about a little over 2 weeks from today until deadlines close. So you still got time, my friends. Absolutely. We're probably going to have a high submission rate for this. So work on it, edit it, do the best you can, and I'll look forward to seeing your submissions. Not only myself, Penelope will be, and we're going to see what happens with our creepy and our spooky host, Miss Jezebel. All right. And with that being said, that was a really great call out. So let's get right along to our next story, Falling for a Storm, a contemporary romance by Courtney Stephenson. All right, Courtney. So I got your story queued up here. Now, just so you guys know, it looks like Engineer, I got your story coming up as well. So Engineer, I'll get your story on deck next. And then Marta, I also saw your story here. Let me make sure that your story pulled up okay. Okay. Awesome. So I'm going to do my best to get to them. I'm starting to feel my voice a little bit, but we'll do our best. So let's go. Yeah. So, all right. So we're going to, let me readjust the screen. All right. And we got Miss Courtney's Falling for a Storm. All right, perfect. So for those of you who joined us last time with Courtney's story, we did the prologue as our protagonist, Lexi, was reeling from the loss of her true love. We got a little foreshadowing, a little bit about Mr. Bash and what type of man he actually was. So we're going to hop right into chapter 1. All right, perfect, perfect, perfect. And I am all set. Falling for a Storm, chapter 1, Lexi. Sitting on the swing on the back porch, sipping on my morning coffee, still wearing my running clothes, and watching the sunrise over the Wtccreatives Creek is my favorite part of living in this big house. I run every day, but I can only do it in the early morning hours or evening to survive the humidity. I don't mind. Less people that way. I love sitting out here listening to the world wake up, the peace it brings me. It's still hard after the life I've had to wrap my mind around the fact that this house is all mine. Of course, I really don't need a 5-bedroom home on 5 acres. It's only me here, and nobody visits when you grow up in a trailer with an absent parent that enjoyed having their loud friends over. It's nice to have space and peace. Then again, thinking about how I got here, I feel less accomplished. As I have for a year now, I often think back to that day. I can still remember our last conversation before his car hit us. Like always, I wanted a simple dinner, like fast food and a picnic in the park. However, Bash wanted me to be more comfortable with the finer things in life. So his uncle's favorite restaurant, Lebkuchen Lounge for some fine dining, was where we were headed that night. Taking a deep breath, I started to notice the sounds from the boats running up Wtccreatives Creek towards the ocean for a day of fishing. Standing, stretching my arms above my head, then reaching onto the table. I grab my coffee cup, going into the house, dropping my cup in the sink. I take a shower and head to my office to start my day. I chose the room that overlooks the driveway as an office in case I get a delivery of a book I edited. While my work is on the computer, I like to be an active part of the books I've worked on, so I always pre-order them. My library is full of amazing stories I have the pleasure of being a small part of, along with others I just love. I enjoy most of the authors I work with, and I feel included as a part of their group. That's probably silly, but I like to think they are my friends, even without having ever met them in person, because of having so many late night editing sessions with their books. When Bash died, and I took a week to drive here from Washington, they were understanding and even sent me care packages for when I would arrive. Their care packages came with a bunch of book merch that I've used as decorations in my personal library. Whenever one of my authors gets a new book released, I've always made them a care package filled with relaxing items for them to enjoy their success. That's probably why they sent me their care packages. Before moving here, I had never had such a unique container, but now I go to the Charleston City Market and get a sweetgrass basket to fill with their self-care items. Shaking those thoughts from my head, I grab Sebastian's letter from my desk and I hold it in my hands like I do every day. I wonder if I'm ready to move past this. It has been a year. Yesterday, the lady at the post office said I'm too young to be so alone. Ugh, I'm 29 and I've always been alone, except for those 6 years I spent with Sebastian. She probably knows her whole family like everyone else here does. Some of us don't have a family, or at least one that wanted them. Everyone had an opinion on me moving here all alone until I informed them why. Now they just let me be. Setting the letter back down, I open my schedule and see that I have a break. All the authors I edit for aren't due to send me work for a week or more. Maybe I should take this time to deal with his letter, since I've drawn it out this long. What if it just says he loves me and wants me to move on? That seems anticlimactic. Knowing Bash, it'll be an adventure for me to go on. He knows I don't deal with emotional crap. Ugh. Never have. I just push down all my emotions and move on, allowing the baggage to slowly drown me. His way of helping would be to push me outside of my comfort zone, and forcing me to handle things isn't what I would call healthy either. Damn it. Ugh, I'm procrastinating again. I'm just going to suck it up and do it. Yep, I'm going to read the letter. I can plan what to do with it after, but I need to do this. Ugh. I might as well actually finish this chapter of our life together. All right. Straightening my shoulders, I grab my letter opener. I mean, I don't want to rip the letter before I read it. I finally open his letter to me. Lexi. Well, damn, babe. If you're reading this, it must be bad. I'm sure you have pushed off doing this for so long, and it's okay. I get it. I'm sorry. I was like everyone else and left you alone again. I'm sure it was out of my control. Hopefully you've sold the house and got out of Washington. I hope you go somewhere warm. I haven't been completely honest with you, babe. I did love you, but you were not my first love. Before I went to Seattle to work for my uncle's company, I lived in Charleston, SC, South Carolina. I was engaged to a beautiful woman that had my whole heart. One night when I was young and dumb, I drove us home when I should have ordered a car. Unfortunately, I crashed, and my beautiful young fiance was killed. Well, I only got some cuts. Her family rightfully hated me, and Uncle Prescott thought it was time I worked for the family business, seeing I was only me and him left. I met you a year later, babe, and as you know, Uncle Prescott died, and now it's only you and the family. I tried to do better for you. I wanted to give you a family. I hope I succeeded. I need to ask something from you. I ask that I can rest with Kara. I understand if you aren't ready yet, but that would be my final wish. Her family would never allow me to be buried near her, but maybe you could set out on one last adventure with me, babe, and sprinkle me on her site. Let my final resting place be watching over her. Don't let me weigh you down any more than I probably already have. Lexi, I've always been so proud of how much you've grown in the years. I've known you. Everything you have in your life, you got all on your own. Thank you for letting me celebrate your achievements with you. Uncle Prescott always said how strong you were. And once you allowed yourself to get out of your own way, how unstoppable you would be. I wish that for you, Lexi. Step out of your own way and conquer the world. Find love again, a deeper love than we had. Laugh deep and have the life you want. Don't let others force you to experience things they wish you had. I'm so sorry, babe. Never let this break you. You are still my fierce storm. Love, Sebastian Wolf. P.S. Kara McKay is buried at Magnolia Cemetery in Charleston, South Carolina. They never let me know the plot. Crying, I set the letter down. Why couldn't he tell me? I told him everything. He kept a huge part of himself from me. Who's Kara? I get onto my laptop and search for Kara, find her obituary and her plot. I wanted more about who she was. I go to the other office across the hall, where I keep Sebastian's boxes from his office and closet. Will I find some answers as to why he never told me about her? She obviously meant a lot to him. After 3 hours of going through a box after box of tax papers and other boring, useless information, I see the special trunk Sebastian used to keep in his closet. I never felt like I'm intruding. Lifting the lid, a newspaper clipping falls out. Kara's obituary. My vision becomes blurry as I see how much care he took in packing their life together. They were truly and deeply in love. One picture stood out, their engagement picture. Sebastian looked so young and carefree with his salty blonde hair still tousled. His dark chocolate eyes were filled with a love I've never seen before. The woman is in his arms with her curly strawberry blonde hair and enchanting hazel eyes shone bright with love and happiness. Oof. All right, we're going to end the reading there. Wow, Courtney. First off, that was really, really cool. Really, really well done, my friend. There we go. Awesome. So that was very, very cool. I actually think my favorite part was the letter. I think that letter was very dynamic. I feel like I got a clear understanding of Bash's of like a version of Bash's character. And I tried to capture him with the voice, but it really felt like the letter was truly like it's like Bash's last words. It kind of actually makes me curious of thinking if Bash left her more than one letter. I'm wondering if he's gonna have left her another letter later in the story. But we're gonna start going deeper into understanding like Lexi's going on a journey of self-exploration by laying to rest her dead husband's ashes, who he literally never told her about his previous wife. Was it wife or I think wife? I think it was wife. Yeah, I was engaged when I was young and dumb. So engaged, not married. And he killed her. Wow, no wonder he was a crazy, crazy, crazy man. Wow. And this is actually a very heartwarming story. By the time I got to the end of the letter and then I got back to Lexi, I like kind of wanted to tear up a little bit. So I think that was actually very well done. That was super cool. Woo, so I would absolutely say, Courtney, the best parts of it was your character development. Character development, hands down. Bash felt like a very believable character, even though we only got, technically he's dead, so we're technically only getting really the ghost of Bash through the letter. And I know what you've shared is that we get to explore more and more of Bash's character throughout the story and really understanding the full extent of who he truly was. And I think that was actually very interesting. I actually absolutely love that. Yeah, and I think I would say the biggest opportunities. I think I would say the biggest opportunities is I think I want a little bit more of I chose the room. Yeah, so I think I want a little bit more of how Lexi feels about Bash, leading up to his letter. I think from a world building is fine. We're in the real world anyways, and the book club was I like that. That's good character development. Yeah, and I think from a plot perspective, I almost feel like I wanted to get another sense of how Lexi views Bash right before she opens the letter. I know we did that. You did the cute moment with he wanted to give her the finer things in life. I would say like I would kind of want like a moment where I as a reader, I want to understand how Lexi views Bash in this moment in time before she even reads the letter, because her world is clearly going to be shattered. And we want her to have a certain view of Bash in the pre-letter moment, because then we see the change when she breaks down and like, wow, he had this double life that he literally never told her about. That's crazy. Wow, no wonder. Falling for a storm. This is so perfect. Like, I love this. And how he ended off the storm bit on the letter was beautiful. I actually love that so much. So going into it, sitting on the swing. So we had gone through the prologue when post Bash dying. So we have a sense of Bash and Lexi. Oh yeah, and then I just highlighted this part. When you grow up in a trailer with an absent parent that enjoyed having their loud friends over, it's nice to have space and peace. This is just a tense thing. When you grow up in a trailer, so okay, so of course I really don't need a 5-bedroom home on 5 acres. It's only me here, nobody visits. When you grow up in a trailer, when you grew up in a trailer with an absent parent that enjoyed having their loud friends over, it's nice to have space and peace. You grew up in a trailer with an absent parent that enjoyed having their loud friends over. It is nice. When you grow up, so grow up is not present. When you grow up in a trailer with an absent parent that enjoyed having the loud friends over, it is nice to have space and peace. But it's her past, so she's thinking of her past, present. I would just reword it. Because I think I would go past, because technically this is right now in her bedroom. This is her present moment. I would make, nope, let's not do that. Yeah, so I would do this. I would actually make this its own paragraph and then explore the parent bit just a little bit, because I think this is interesting and this might give us context to her character. In a trailer with an absent parent that enjoyed having loud friends over. Absent parent, that one is cool. I think there's actually a very great opportunity to do a little bit of showing instead of saying the absent parent, when you grow up in a trailer with a parent who does ABC, who does drugs, who is always out hooking up with people and does this, and then the friends they bring over are all hooligans. It created a disconnect. So I think this is an opportunity to do a little showing, explore her background just a little bit, and show us why her parents were basically absent. Or absent parent, not parents, parent. Then again, think about how I got here. I feel less accomplished. And then I would break this off and then tie that into this moment. So she feels less accomplished because she's in a 5-bedroom. Is she feeling less accomplished because it wasn't her own accomplishment? Because she was technically given it by Bash. I think that's what it is. I would just clarify that. Let's see, as I have a year now, I have to think back. And I like this, that you're setting up it's been a year. I might set up that it's been a year in the very beginning. I think just for context, I would set up that it's been a year in the first paragraph, so the audience or so the reader is clear on what the present moment is. Or something you can do is you can always put the year in part of the chapter heading if you want. But I would do that. I would set up where the present moment is, since a year has passed since the prologue. But that's a subjective thing. Yeah, you understand him better later, but I need the prologue to make you care about him for a second. Yeah, that makes sense. I understand. Now I understand why you use the prologue to set up his character, because the letter kind of happens at the very beginning. Yeah, I would even use the prologue to play even more into his admirable traits than Courtney. I would highlight all of his admirable traits, like in the prologue, make it even more, define them even more. That's what I would say. Let's see. You get it after the letter. Should it be before? I picture it before she's going through the motions before the letter. It isn't the letter in the trunk that she snaps and unleashes the anger. So you can actually do that. So with her snapping, and this is, I'm going to go into the letter itself. All right, so I'll go to letter in just a second, because I actually do want to call out to her snapping moment. But with here, Bash wanted me to be comfortable with the finer things in life. I like that. I actually like this. This still gives us some character building. I might explain this date a little bit more so we get kind of this romantic vibe, and I think it'll be a better setup for the letter. So the finer things, and then talk about how this was like the most romantic date ever. I think that would play into, oh, Bash is this romantic. And now we're about to get the letter, and clearly we're turning it on its head. So I'd play into Bash being a romantic even more in this paragraph. And it's good. You're just setting up. I chose the room that overlooks the driveway as an office in case I get delivery of a book I edited. I think all of this book stuff is great. This is all good backstory for her as a character. It just that we're about a page, or this paragraph is pretty long. I think it just needs to be broken up and edited more than anything. Let me just drop this down to 12 point and see if it's an actual page. So this paragraph right here, it's about 60%. So yeah, I think from an editing perspective, this is all backstory and setup. I would actually just edit this down because the learning about her being an author is important. That's definitely important. The library is good. The friends is good. I would condense it because the gist I get out of this, she's an author. She gets value out of connecting with people online that she's never met. And she got some type of basket from the city market. She got some type of care package. Those are the 3 things I learned. I would just condense it down. That's more an editing thing than anything else. Okay, so there's that. Shaking those thoughts from my head. I grabbed Sebastian's letter. Yep. So clearly, and she is basically just putting this off. Let's see. Oh, that's really cool, my friend. Well, welcome to the stream. Glad to have you here supporting your fiance. Welcome, my friend. Let's see. And like I did with the prologue when I said a year ago. Yeah, so you're speaking to the prologue bit. Yeah, I think I would just set up the present moment. Yep, that's what I would do. I would just set up in the beginning. This could be a subjective thing, and this might just be me. I would get feedback from different people, but I think setting up the present moment in the beginning helps cement the reader and where we're at. So they don't think, oh, this is like a week after he just died. All right, beautiful. So let's see. So it's a well-known basket from South Carolina. Perfect. All right, so this is good. She's basically procrastinating. This is good. Everyone had an opinion on moving here until all alone until I informed them why. I don't understand why right now. What was the reason that she informed them that she wanted to be alone? So that part just isn't clear from this statement. I'm not sure if she wanted to be alone because she was with Bash or what the reasoning was. So I would just clarify this a little bit. It's possible. I mean, it could be a genre thing. Definitely something to keep in mind. I'm not too certain on if there's an average word count length for the average for romance. So I think I would just continue to research that, Courtney. Hey, what's up, LeMay? Welcome, my friend. And let's see, setting the letter back down, I open my schedule and see that I have a break. All the authors I edit for and due to send me work for a week or more. Let's see, would call healthy either. Damn it, I'm procrastinating again. I'm just going to suck it up and do it. Yep, I'm going to read this letter. I can plan what to do with it after, but I need to do this. I might as well actually finish this chapter of her life together. Straightening my shoulders, I grab my letter opener. I mean, I don't want to rip. So when we get to the letter itself, I actually really like the letter. It was very, very moving. The letter, very, 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 very moving. I loved it. I think this is probably just the editor in me. It probably just needs to be broken up. So let's just take it down to the font that it would probably be at. All right. So our letter is about, I don't know why the bottom is so funky, but yeah, I don't know the spacing. Something with the thing is so. Something with the spacing on the footer is weird. But if I was just to break down this letter, 12 point, it's going to be about what, like 2 pages roughly. I would break up the reading of the letter. I'd break up the emotional moments with Lexia responding. Now, if you want to save her breaking down for when she does the chess thing, like that's fine. She doesn't have to break down right now. But Courtney, what I want you to think about is when people are having a breakdown, there's usually a lead up to it, right? Shaking, trying to ignore, taking a deep breath, maybe deep breathing, maybe fidgeting. And I want you to think about some of these lead up moments for her taking a break for the letter. Like I could totally imagine her like reading a section and then like clenching her fist, but then like I could even almost see her like stopping reading the letter for a moment. It's kind of interesting. It might work better. Like what if you read the letter and she stops midway? Like it might actually add some more tension. She's like, I need a moment. And then she does the chest and then you finish with the reading the letter. It might actually draw out the letter bit a little bit more instead of it being back together, but that's just a subjective suggestion to draw out the tension. Right? Like the moment she learns about Kara, she's going to want to know who she is. So then I would go straight to the chest. Like, yeah, who the F is this one? He was engaged and she was with him for 6 years. She was with Bast for 6 years and he never told her that he was previously engaged to somebody that he accidentally killed. Like that's crazy. That is some crazy stuff, my friend. Yeah, and I think I completely agree with them. Trying to contain someone's feelings is much more powerful to me than letting them all out because you know they're in there, plus the strain of holding it back. And then engineer, not to be taken as a general thing, but when I break down, I have an unusual amount of patience right before. Like, it doesn't bother me, it doesn't bother me, it doesn't bother me, it bothers me, it bothers me, it bothers me. And then you let it all out. And I think what we're missing just from that moment is like you don't actually have to show her breaking down because everyone responds to it differently, but you have to show her doing something. Even if you showing us is her holding it back, her clenching her fists, her just choosing. Or you could do interiority of like, I'm not going to let this get to me. I'm not going to let this get to me. Like, because it is a buildup. And both from what Eli and engineer both shared, it regardless of how you go about it, you need to show some type of buildup to it. Even if the buildup is her holding it back and not responding. The reason being is because it makes her feel more believable and it helps the reader feel more that she's a real human being and, oh, she's holding it back. And then it makes the reader think the last time I had a breakdown, yeah. And then it makes them feel more emotional because it connects on a human level. So I think playing into that buildup would be really, really, really powerful, regardless of how you end up having her have the breakdown. There's a foreshadowing in the prologue when she says Bash was such a careful driver. Perfect. And I do like that. I actually think that was smart. And I think I remember that. I think that was actually a really smart decision. Yeah, she holds it back at first. It adds a beat of relief for both the reader and character as well. Yep. Yeah, I really like the letter. Having Lexi stop at key points is a great idea. And I mean, you could even like, if I was working on this, I think I would actually use the rule of threes. I think I would break up her letter reading into 3 separate sections. Have the first one, she just stops. She has to like set it down for a second. Like, all right, this, because if you're like somebody that you love, like accepting that they lied to you for 6 seconds and now like that shatters your world. That is world shattering. But you know, you hold it back. Okay, I'm going to read more. Put it down. Okay, I need to just walk away. Maybe I'm not having a breakdown yet. I'm going to go procrastinate again. I'm going to go look in the chest. Who the F is this Kara biz? Like that type of thing, right? And I think if I were working on it, I would split it up into 3 sections. But you don't have to split it up. You can still get away with doing it. That's totally a subjective thing based on how you would want to handle it. Mm-hmm. She's at the anger stage of grief. She breaks down around chapter 13. Yep. Okay. Isn't the first stage of grief usually denial? I'm pretty sure the first stage of grief is usually denial. Because even though she's at the anger stage, she probably will go through, and this is just a guess, and obviously everyone responds differently, but the moment that she reads a letter, she's probably going to restart her grief cycle, is my guess. My guess is she probably goes back to denial. And then she goes, it's basically like she's been trapped in this cycle since Bash died. She reads the letter back at the beginning. My guess is it's going to take her back to the beginning. The letters probably feels like the inciting incident, which is beautiful. Like, I love the strategy behind the story is great, which is why I'm loving the plot so far. She was in that denial stage for a year, which would be really interesting if she had just like, what if like you call out in the beginning of the chapter, she had literally like taken a year going through therapy, doing the thing, working on herself. She's finally in a decent place. She's finally ready to read the letter. The letter sets her back, and now she feels like she just lost a whole year. That would make anyone pissed off. Like, yo, I've been trying to deal with this for a year, and then this asshole, like, yeah, I'd be frustrated. And like, she could recover from it pretty quickly if you really wanted to, but it might be interesting to make her feel like she's still trapped in that cycle. Like, Bash is hanging over her head, and now she's probably going to feel compelled. Like, F that guy, but I love him. Asshole. I still love him. All right. No, I'm not going to take his ashes there. Screw that. I'm toss him in the trash. No, well, I love him. We had something. Okay, I'm going to do it. No, I'm not going to do it. I could see her playing ping pong with herself, which would be cool. All right. Okay. Yeah, and that was kind of what we got, because then we have her crying, which could be good. I could also see her like not even knowing that she's crying, because it's just like such a thing. So yeah. So overall, that was kind of where we left off. So I would say that's what I got for you today, my friend. We'll tie it up there. Awesome. But Courtney, thank you so much for submitting that. I'm loving the story so far. I'm not a romance reader. Like, that's not my genre personally, but I love the character development that you're setting up. And the letter did almost make me want to tear up a little bit. So I think, like, pull on those heartstrings, make your reader want to cry by the time she has her breakdown. Make your reader want to cry, because then they will be attached to your character and they'll stick around for the entire journey. Excellent. Great suggestion. Okay. So that wraps up critique Falling for a Storm. That was awesome. All right. So with that one out of the way, all right. So I got both your other stories. I do kind of feel my voice giving out a little bit, but I think I have another story left in me. I'm going to try my best, but I feel my voice giving out. I probably went too much in the serial killers in the beginning. Like the voice acting. So what I'm going to do is, that way I can make sure to try to get through your guys' stories. I'll probably do a little shorter excerpts, so that way I can make sure both of you guys get some good feedback. So Engineer, I'll queue up your story next. We'll hop into Dragons of Steel, which is a fantasy by Engineer. So super exciting. Remember, I loved the dragon bit that we did. We got the opening to the prologue. So let me just pull this up. Ooh, I love it. And you already made a start on a map, which is super cool. So I'll definitely show the map. That's awesome. This is super awesome. Wow. Engineer, I love that you gave us a little bit of a map. That's awesome. So we're going to be, there's the map. We're going to be starting off with that. But before we start off, a quick call out. If you're enjoying the stream, share it with a friend. Tap that share button right there. Tap the share button and spread it out. because we want to bring other writers to the community. The more writers, the more voices which are represented, and the more feedback to help you with your stories in the critiques. In the critique streams, the more types of writing styles we get to see. We get to hear horror, romance, fantasy, sci-fi, children's, all the stories, because writing is the one thing that unites us, and we all want to improve at our storytelling, regardless of the genre or the format. So tap that button, because once we hit 500 subscribers, we're less than 20 away. We'll be launching the Right Now Discord. So smash that button, help us join, help us spread the awareness of the Right Now community. All right, beautiful. So I got Dragons of Steel all queued up. Let's see. Perfect. Just make sure I got this. Okay, perfect. So Dragons of Steel. Ooh, that's not pretty. All right, there we go. So we got our little map here, which is fun. Ooh, I know. Ooh, let's hit subscribe so we can get a Discord. That'll be super cool. We're so close, my friends. We'll probably be hitting it soon, maybe. So tap subscribe on the Right Now YouTube channel. Okay. So without further ado, we got Mr. Engineer. So let's see, just some notes. This is the cool map. Probably recognize our incarnate. I know we were working from the same program. I love Engineer that you set up that you got a map set up as well, which is super, super cool. Okay. So by incarnate license, nope. So there's just that. Okay. So gold was steel. Okay. So I don't think we made it too far yet. Normally I would say, just let me know where you left it off before, but I don't think we had made it too far. Okay, so we're going to start off here. So he just woke up, he graded her good morning, and I think we're going to be getting some character development from Feather, which is super fun. Okay, so I am all set. Let me just set this up. Okay. Morning still, she said back, scratching her eyes before looking up at him. The half-dragon's head almost bumped on the ceiling sometimes. I'm going to breakfast. I'd appreciate your company, he said. She nodded. The two started getting ready. Going to the bathroom and getting the needed ingots for them to buy their food. Getting breakfast at a tavern made them seem like alcoholics. They knew that. But the breadsticks were good, and the rest of the food was cheap and edible. As they made their way to it, the rest of the people hosted there sent glances at them. Steele was quick to stare back at them, his gaze like a spear. When at the tavern, there were several groups around the tables. Some had been drinking all night, while some had been drinking. There were several groups. Some had been drinking all night, while some had the same idea as them. They sat on a vacant table, ordered, and got their food. Chewing on their hastily made sandwiches, while they were chewing, they started discussing the usual. What's the plan for today? Feather asked. Check if the train arrived. If not, go find another job. Steele replied, taking the second and last bite of the third sandwich as it disappeared into his mouth. What happened to the other job you found? She asked, a bit confused as she took a sip of her milk. It was short-lived, that's all, Steele replied. There's nothing wrong with finding a small hustle to do for a week or two. Yeah, I know, but why don't you find something you're really good at? Feather asked, setting her cup of milk aside. Didn't you mention toolsmithing? I bet there's jobs for that, she reasons. I don't want to get too much into it, he admits, taking his own cup in his hands and gulping it all down in one go. He waited for Feather to finish eating patiently. When she was done, they silently got up and left the place. Their room was locked, and even in the worst case, all their money was on Steele's pockets. The city of Sandstone was buzzing with the activity of the morning. People on their bicycles were pedaling away into the streets, and from their standpoint, they could see 2 dragons flying in the sky. It would take 1 hour of barefoot walking to reach the train station, and 1 more hour of walking to reach the unemployment helping center, where Steele would spend a good 15 minutes looking through catalogs of available job offerings to find someone that both paid well and he could do. That wasn't counting the off chance he'd get rejected. Feather wasn't athletic enough for a 2-hour walk, much less anything longer than that. Do you want me to carry you? Steele offered in anticipation. I would like that. Yeah, she replied nonchalantly. Steele lowers down and easily picks her up, putting her on his shoulder. She grasps his horns for stability, and they begin the journey they've done almost every day ever since they arrived at the town. The streets were the same, but they felt different. They were always full, packed with people, wandering merchants, newsstands, and would form and go away. People would pass by them, but they always kept their distance from the half-dragon. After the trek, they finally arrived at the station, and with a quick glance, they could tell that the massive locomotive wasn't there. Whenever the train arrived at one of the ends of the line, it'd stay there for a whole day to pick up passengers. Well, that was a waste of time, Feather said. Steele could only sigh. His expression only showed mild annoyance as he looked at the scenery. The station was like that of a ghost town. There was no one around. After all, there was no point in staying there without the train. With that settled, they only had one place left to go. Well, time to go to the center, Steele said, turning around and walking into the town again. The walk was long, but Steele had the stamina needed for it. They arrived at the building. The large brick monument that stood within the city was a simple stand where you would come in, ask for a list of jobs, they'd give it to you, and from there, it was up to you to knock on doors and ask around. All right, and ask around. Steele did exactly that, asking his list of employers onto his claws and looking at them. Feather still on his shoulder. After just a few minutes, Steele hummed, raising one of his eyebrows. Feather took notice of this. What caught your interest? She asked. Steele took one of his claws and tapped on one specific line of the many job offerings on the paper. Feather leaned towards and squinted to try and read it, but it was too far away. Steele also took note of this and read it aloud. Bodyguard, he said. Really? She asked. Who would be hiring for a bodyguard? She asked. Someone with a lot of money, Steele said bluntly. So what are we waiting for? Feather said, excited. Let's get to this address. Awesome. And I'm going to end it there because that's a good beat in the moment before we hop into chapter 2. So first off, Engineer, thank you so much for submitting that. That's actually really cool. I know you shared that you've been really working on it. And that was a really interesting. What I really love about this story is this idea between this like half dragon and this, I think Feather's a fairy. I forgot what her race was. I think she's a fairy. And still, we got the half dragon. He looked, the Dragon Knight was sleeping. Okay, so Feather is just a child. He looked to that and it was sleeping a child. Feather had long white hair and pale skin, almost wearing white shirt and green. All right, so right now she's just been described as a child. Feather's a regular human kid. Cool. I don't know why I'm thinking fairy for some reason. I'm like, thinking of a pixie from my story. But yeah, okay. So Feather's just a normal human kid. Good to know. So, interesting. It makes me now I really want to know how this kid ended up with this half dragon character with Steele, which is really, really interesting. So what I really liked, I like the bond and the character development we have, both of them. Just a side note, and this goes to anybody that's just a note on dialogue. Anytime you use a speech tag like this, you always use a comma like that to follow it up. So always, whenever a speech tag is present, he said, she said, they said something, you always use a comma inside the dialogue itself, basically replaces the period anytime a speech tag follows a piece of dialogue. So this is just an FYI, and this is for any writer. Dialogue and dialogue rules is actually one of the most common things that I see with writers. Dialogue, understanding like how to format dialogues. So I just wanted to call this out, engineer, because this will help make you a better writer really quickly. And it saves you time on edits on future drafts. Okay. So with that, she nodded. The two started getting ready for breakfast. Getting breakfast at a tavern made them seem like alcoholics. That was great. That was great character setup. I actually really liked that. That was awesome. So I really liked the setup for that. That was really, really good for them. I like that. That was definitely really, really cool. I think that did a good job of kind of giving this like dynamic of like, all right, they're just going to a tavern, but clearly they're like, they go there, like, why go to a tavern if you're not getting alcohol? And I actually kind of like that. It sets up the vibe for these two. But then it's also like, okay, why is there a kid in a tavern? But that's probably that's normal in this world, I imagine. I think what it shows is that he kind of treats her like an adult. That's kind of the vibe that I'm starting to get. I don't know if any of you guys remember the BFG, and a classic Roald Dahl novel. It was like Roald Dahl, I think that was the name. But it kind of gives me that vibe of the giant character, and then there's like a companion sidekick, which I remember from that. And I'm kind of getting that like friend, that dynamic, and that the story really centers on the two of their relationship as it evolves over the story. And I think that's actually really cool. Awesome. So I really like that. Let's see. So, okay. So I like that. So this is the initial thing. So they basically need work. So I think the one thing that I don't know right now is, why does he need work? Why does he need a job? And I think this is because I don't understand the context yet of the world. It's still a little early, and that could be possible. But I might even include in this dialogue, like, what does he want to use the money for? Because we don't know what type of world we're in quite yet. So like, is he using the money for, like, does he have to pay rent? Does he want to buy something? Does he like to gamble? Does he want to go buy some armor? Does he want to give Feather the best life possible? So I would just say, like, what does he want to use the money for could be important in this initial dialogue, so we know what his reasoning is for needing a job right now. All right, so this bit, so after their conversation, so this is good. I like that we have some setup for the city here. With something like this, with a description, make it its own paragraph, because we want to get a setup for the city itself, so that way it doesn't get lost in Feather and Steel's just in their journey. Now we get more attention called out to the city of Sandstone. So right now what's happening is they're doing a lot of walking to really the point of it is they need to get to the job board. So I would actually recommend them taking out. So during these walks, unless we're learning something new about the character, the walks don't matter unless it furthers the plot. So something I would recommend is during these walks and do some character development. And by doing character development, I would introduce something about their relationship that's unique between Feather and Steel. make us, and you don't have to like say it like, oh, this is the thing. Maybe like Feather makes a joke, or maybe Steel starts talking about his past, or maybe they see a dad beating a kid as they walk by, and it makes Steel think about his dad, and then Feather gives him a hug. She's like, don't worry, you're the best friend I could ever ask, right? You could do so many different things. Or maybe Feather likes to crack a joke. That could be fun. But I would say like right now, because it just feels like they're just kind of walking to get to the job board essentially, and we're not getting any plot development, give us some character development. So that way we can have fun with Steel and Feather as they're getting from location to location. So it doesn't feel like, oh, it's just them walking from point A to point B. The empty train station is good. I would almost play into the half dragon bit. Like, what if somebody like stops them and points in his face? Like, you could actually have a fun moment with that. That could be super cool. I like that they get to the station and it's only a ghost town. I actually think was a good call. And then I think after the ghost station, I was like, with that settled, they only had one place to go. I would actually just cut this and have them get from the ghost station to the job center next. So then that way we can kind of get to further the plot without it feeling like, oh, okay, now they're walking again. But you don't want to chance your reader getting bored if it's just like, oh, they need to get from point A to point B. You could easily say, with that settled, they only had one place left to go. It took them 5 minutes to walk to the job center. They arrived at the doors as Steel kicked the door open and Feather was like, what caught your interest? Or whatever, right? You could get them there very quickly. And then, or you could always just add another scene, right? Do some more character development, or maybe show us some world building about what's the city like. I would say if I was writing this, I would have one of their walking scenes do character development that shows me something new about Steel and Feather's relationship. Have the other scene do something new that shows me what is the city of Sandstone like. I think that's how I would tackle it. So that way, by the time they get to this job board, I'm like, okay, I kind of have a couple of ideas. I like Feather and Steel. They're a cool character duo. And then, oh, this city of Sandstone's interesting. I want to learn more about it. So that's how I would tackle that. Sweet. And then we basically get the bodyguard. This was a good cliffhanger because I'm like, ooh, a bodyguard. What if what if you added even more tension? Bodyguard. What if under bodyguard, you have it signed by like a mysterious name? Like, need bodyguard for Mr. X, or need bodyguard for so and so. What if you did a really like unique name, and then that would add additional kind of like foreshadowing, like need bodyguard, prepare to die, or need bodyguard, must be experienced. Do something that I think you could literally do a foreshadowing element, which would be super cool, because this bodyguard thing is a really great cliffhanger, and I'd like up the stakes for it. Let's up that foreshadowing. So really, she asked, who could be hiring a bodyguard? Someone with a lot of money. She points. Mr. X doesn't sound like Mr. X doesn't sound like a good guy. And he's like, don't worry. We need the money. I think you could do something fun like that. That's more a subjective suggestion, but I think that would be fun. So yeah, that's what I got for you, engineer. That was definitely a fun little read, my friend. So definitely fun. Keep on writing. This is a cool, I actually love this setup that you have for Feather and Steel. They have the opportunity to be a really powerful duo. And I'm actually really intrigued now. Like, ooh, why would a half dragon, like, what's it going to be like a half dragon being a bodyguard? I want to see like the half dragon. I want to see Steel doing some fighting now. I'm like, he's probably going to be pretty badass. So yeah, good luck with the next section, my friend. Really, really great work. Oh, that's weird. Yeah, if you're having problems with it, I would say just probably message the Incarnate team and see if the support team can help you out or not. All right, awesome. And let's see. Okay, so with where we're at right now, All right, so hold on just a second, Marta. So I'm looking at your thing, but let's see. I'm looking at what you submitted for your next story submission. Awesome. So I really liked what you submitted, Marta. I think the only problem that I'm having is like I can't even feel my voice. I think I'm gonna have to call the readings here. Simply be and I'm bummed because I know you have your fan club here. So yeah, but I'm not gonna be able to read it, and I'm just not gonna be able to give you valuable feedback that would actually help you because my voice just hurts a little bit. Yeah. I'm sorry about that, friend. But what I will do, Marta, because I really value you, we'll queue up your story at the beginning of the next stream. So what I would suggest is then you can kind of make sure that the paragraphs are formatted correctly. We'll have it at the start of our next story and critique show. So I'll let you know beforehand so that way you can gather your fan club. But yeah, that's what I would recommend. Because like I was on the fence. I was like, okay, I was like, okay, I really want to read it, but I'm just not going to be able to give a good experience. And that I care about that more than anything. But I actually really appreciate that. I really appreciate that you came to support. So I would like come back on the next story show. It'll be in, let me look at the calendar. So story and critique show, actually, Marta, I'll be queuing your story and critique show up at the next story and critique show will be episode 30. So we'll actually be celebrating 30 episodes of the critique show. The next one, what's the calendar? Will be on Saturday, October 12th. Wow. So it's going to actually be queued up right before the submission of the final submission of the flash fiction contest. So definitely. Awesome. And I mean, something we've been doing, like something we've been doing with the community, Marta, maybe it's something that we could try. We could always read fan stories on Mondays. We read WTC's story last Monday. We could always do something like that on Mondays if that's something the community really likes. We could always read like fan stories, might be something super fun. I wouldn't really do it as a critique. I'd say if you really want like the full critique in it, I would say let's queue it up in the next critique stream in about 2 weeks. And I'll make sure to keep you updated, my friend. But just something to think about. We'll chat offline. Yeah, I've waited the 3 weeks my first, but the feedback was well worth the wait. Yes. Yeah, and it's especially as we're exploring new stream formats. Originally, the critique show is every weekend, but I want to make sure, A, that I don't get burnt out doing the same thing, and B, I want to be able to explore other parts of the storytelling process with you guys, right? And the other streams we've done, like between look, the 97% of writers fail. This was an excellent workshop. The Blurb and Pitch Fest, or the Blurb stream, the Story Idea Pitch Fest. We have some really cool ones. So we'll definitely be, we'll have some more stream formats coming up. Absolutely. Awesome. And as I look towards creative writing on the morrow, tomorrow's stream is actually going to be super cool. How I adapted a horror story into a short film for $1 with award-winning filmmaker and author Paul Inman for episode 19 of the Create Right Now podcast. So this is actually going to be super cool. I'll bring up the thumbnail because this is going to give you guys the vibe of what to expect for tomorrow. Awesome. Perfect. All right. So I'm going to pull this up so that way you guys can see what the vibe is for tomorrow. So this is for tomorrow's episode of the Create Right Now podcast. How I adapted a horror story into a short film for $1 with award-winning filmmaker and author Paul Inman. His short film adaptation, That Feeling, which is a Stephen King short film, has won multiple awards. Even from this is 3, 6, 9, 12. So we have about 12 awards here. which is pretty phenomenal. Pretty phenomenal. So we're actually going to be, and we're getting a special sneak peek. We're going to look at the trailer, and then we're going to be getting a special first sneak peek that hasn't been seen before. Tomorrow at the end of the podcast, we're going to be talking about how do you adapt something into a short film. He adapted a short story into a short film, and the process is pretty incredible. Paul's really, really cool. So we're going to be having a great conversation tomorrow. Join us. It'll be at our normal Sunday podcast time, 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. Join us. We'll be here. So we're getting into our October Halloween vibe with a creepy vibe. What better way than Stephen King, the master of horror, right? Stephen King is a perfect way to kick us off into the October vibe, since October 1st is literally next week, my friends. So definitely check that out. And if you're looking for something to watch next, down in the YouTube description is the video from our live stream yesterday, What Makes a Good Author Website, where I chatted with James from WTC Creatives, and we did a great deep dive. We reviewed some author websites from some writers in the community, and we got some great feedback. So go check that out if you missed out. And yeah, enjoy, have fun. All right, my friends. And most importantly, don't forget, like this stream on your way out, help me show the algorithms that writing streams are cool. I appreciate you. Thank you all for being so involved today. You guys are all awesome. Courtney, LeMay, Marta, I absolutely appreciate all you. Inca, thanks for coming for the support. You guys are all awesome. ML, Engineer, you guys, Rock, Eli, appreciate you, my friends. I always love having all you here in the stream. So thanks all for joining me today. And yeah, that brings us to the end of the stream. Don't forget, words are wind, but stories are forever. I'm Kauffman, and I'll catch you on the morrow. Stay creative, writers.